Hello everyone. So in last lecture we discussed all the basic concepts of heat transfer and we briefly introduced all the three modes of heat transfer: the conduction, convection and radiation. So in this lecture we will have a detailed analysis on conduction. So we know the governing equation for conduction is given by the Fourier's law, and we know the equation of Fourier's law also, but we don't know under what conditions we can use this Fourier's law. So it is essential for us to understand the assumptions that are made before deriving this equation Fourier's law. So we will see the assumptions one by one. So the first assumption is steady state heat transfer. So steady state heat transfer means the thermal properties like temperature do not change with respect to time, but this temperature can change with respect to location. For example, in this slab the left face is maintained at T1 temperature, which is a higher temperature, and the right face is maintained at T2 temperature. So with respect to location the temperature can change, but with respect to time the temperature is not going to change. So if the temperature is not changing with respect to time, obviously the rate of heat transfer is also going to be constant with respect to time. So this is the meaning of a steady state heat transfer. The second assumption is the bounding surfaces are isothermal. That means if a surface is at a temperature T1, then at any cross section of that surface the temperature will be at T1 itself. So surfaces are isothermal, means at same temperature. The third assumption is one dimensional heat transfer. So for simplicity we assume that the heat transfer is only in one direction. So in this example the heat transfer is only in positive x direction, as we can see here. The fourth assumption and the last assumption is the material is homogeneous. A homogeneous material means the physical properties like density, thermal conductivity are same at different points, or throughout the location of the body the density, the thermal conductivity are not going to change. So under these assumptions we can use the equation of Fourier's law, which is Q equal to minus Ka dt by dx. Now let's make some more assumptions. Let's say the area through which the heat transfer is occurring is equal to 1 meter square. The temperature difference between the two surfaces is 1 Kelvin or 1 degree Celsius, because both are the same thing, 1 Kelvin or 1 degree Celsius. And the thickness of this slab, let us say, is 1 meter. Now if we put these values in the Fourier's law, then what do we get? Yes, we get Q equal to K. That means the rate of heat transfer is equal to thermal conductivity. Now whatever we did here, if we put these into words, this will become the definition of thermal conductivity. So what is thermal conductivity? Thermal conductivity is numerically equal to the rate of heat transfer through a slab of unit area, unit thickness and unit temperature difference. But what is the physical significance of thermal conductivity? So actually this thermal conductivity signifies it is the ability of a medium to transfer heat. So if a body is having high thermal conductivity, the ability to transfer heat will be more. Or if thermal conductivity value is greater, the greater will be the rate of heat transfer or loss of heat. Now in thermodynamics we have discussed one property, the specific heat, and we know specific heat means the ability of a medium to store or absorb heat. So it becomes essential for us to compare these two properties, the thermal conductivity and the specific heat. So thermal conductivity, as we have already discussed, it is the ability of a medium to transfer heat, whereas specific heat is the ability of a medium to store heat. Now to visualize this, let's take an example. Let's say heat is some mysterious fluid and we can always store a fluid inside a tank. So let's say we have 3 tanks, 1, 2 and 3, and each tank is having 2 taps. one tap is used to fill the tank and another tap is used to empty the tank. Now if you closely analyze, you will get to know that there are two different sizes of tanks as well as there are two different sizes of taps. So if a tank is bigger, we can say the ability to store heat is more for that tank, or the heat capacity for that tank is more. And if a tap is bigger, then we can say the ability to transfer heat is more, or the body is more conductive. So let's take one by one. If we take the tank number 1, we can see the size of the tank is bigger as compared to tank number 3. So we can say the ability to store heat is more for tank number 1. That means the heat capacity is more. Whereas the taps that we are using for tank number 1, they are smaller in size. So the ability to transfer heat will be less. So for tank number 1 or body number 1, we can make a comment that it is less conductive and it is having a high heat capacity. Okay, so let's come to the tank number 2. So we can say the size of the tank is bigger here and also the size of taps are bigger. So this body is having high thermal conductivity, or it is highly conductive, and also it has high heat capacity. When we come to the tank number 3, the size of this tank is lower, so it will have less heat capacity and taps are also smaller. So it is less conductive and it is having less heat capacity. So this is how we can make the comparison between thermal conductivity and specific heat. Okay, so now we will see the thermal conductivity for solids. So in last lecture we have already discussed, in solids the conduction is due to lattice vibration as well as due to movement of free electrons. But all the solids do not have the availability of free electrons. Only metals have the availability of free electrons. So we will discuss metals and non-metals one by one. So in some solids, both the mechanisms, that is the lattice vibration and movement of free electrons, may contribute, and the solids which do not have the availability of free electrons, only lattice vibration will contribute in conduction. So let's take the metallic solids first. So as we have discussed, in metallic solids there is an availability of free electrons. So both the mechanisms, the lattice vibration and movement of free electrons, will contribute in conduction. And because both the mechanisms are active here, the values of thermal conductivities are higher for metallic solids. But as the temperature increases, the lattice vibration is going to increase. And when this lattice vibration increases, it obstructs the flow of free electrons. And as the temperature increases, as this flow of free electrons is getting obstructed, the value of thermal conductivity decreases with increase in temperature. So this is a very important point. For metallic solids, with increase in temperature, the thermal conductivity is going to decrease. Now if we take the non-metallic solids, as there are no availability of free electrons, the values of thermal conductivities are slightly less because only one mechanism is contributing, that is the lattice vibration. So here as the temperature increases, the lattice vibration is going to increase rapidly, so the thermal conductivity is also going to increase with increase in temperature. So for non-metallic solids, as the temperature increases, the thermal conductivity also increases. Now there is an equation to show the variation of thermal conductivity with respect to temperature, and that equation is kT equal to K naught into 1 plus beta T, where kT is the thermal conductivity at some temperature T, K naught is the thermal conductivity of same material at 0 degree Celsius, and beta is a coefficient which depends on material. Now from our previous discussion we can say, as in metallic solids, the thermal conductivity decreases with increase in temperature. So for that this beta value should be negative. Then only an inverse relationship will be there. But for non-metallic solids, as with increase in temperature, the thermal conductivity also increases, the beta value will be positive here. Now let's see the thermal conductivity of liquids. So from experiments, it is known that the thermal conductivity for liquids is proportional to its density to the power 4 by 5. So as we know, with increase in temperature, the density decreases. So if you are increasing the temperature of liquid, its density will decrease, and thermal conductivity is proportional to the density. So with increase in temperature, the thermal conductivity of liquids is going to decrease. So what will be the beta value here? Yes, the beta value is going to be negative for liquids. If we come to the thermal conductivity of gases, from our kinetic theory of gases, we know the kinetic energy is proportional to the temperature, or it is equal to 3 by 2 into kT, where K is the Boltzmann constant. It is not the thermal conductivity, be careful. So here, as the temperature will increase, the kinetic energy of gases is going to increase, and we know in gases the conduction is due to the molecular collisions. So if kinetic energy of gas is increasing, obviously the collisions will be more, and if collisions are more, the thermal conductivity is going to be high. So with increase in temperature, the thermal conductivity of gases increases. So obviously the beta value here will be positive. There is one more important point. The gases which have lower atomic mass or lower weight, the thermal conductivity is going to be higher for that, because the collisions will be more for that kind of gas. Now we will see the thermal conductivity for some different materials. So in this chart, the values of thermal conductivities are given with respect to different materials. So you can see the lowest thermal conductivity is for gases. So we have discussed the mechanism of thermal conductivity in gases or conduction in gases, and we know that the thermal conductivity in gases is less because the molecules are spaced at high distances. Here also you can see the substances like hydrogen and helium are having a slightly high thermal conductivity than the carbon dioxide, because these atoms are lighter, and we have already discussed the lighter atoms will have more thermal conductivity in cases of gas. After gases, the thermal conductivity of insulator comes. So it is slightly more than gases. Then liquids, then the non-metallic solids, metallic alloys, and then metallic pure metals. And in stable, we can see the highest thermal conductivity is for non-metallic crystals like diamond. So diamond is having a very high thermal conductivity value because the structure of diamond is very well organized and the lattice vibration gets easily transferred. So diamond contributes, or for diamond the thermal conductivity value is very high. Now you will see one more property, the thermal diffusivity. It is denoted by alpha, and it is the ratio of ability of a medium to conduct heat with respect to its ability to store heat. So the equation of alpha is alpha equal to K by rho C, where K is the thermal conductivity, rho is the density of that material, and C is the specific heat. And the unit of this property alpha is meter square per second. So you know the unit of thermal conductivity, you know the unit of the density kg per meter cube, and you know the unit of specific heat. So you can easily calculate the unit of alpha. It will be meter square per second. Now what is the significance of this alpha? It signifies if the value of alpha is more, the heat conduction will be more in comparison to the storage of heat, because it is the ratio of K by rho C. So if a material is having high value of thermal conductivity K, then alpha will be more for such value. So now we will discuss the generalized equation of heat conduction in Cartesian coordinates. So let's draw an element in Cartesian coordinate. So this is an element in Cartesian or rectangular coordinate. So this is the x direction, this is the y direction, and this is the z direction. And the thickness in all directions, we will take the elementary thickness in x direction as dx. In y direction, the thickness will be dy, and in z direction, the thickness is dz. So first we will see the assumptions that we make for this analysis. So there are two assumptions. The first one is the material is homogeneous, and the second one is the heat generation is uniform. So in this element, the heat is uniformly generated. So what are the assumptions? The first one is the material is homogeneous. So a homogeneous material means the properties like density, thermal conductivity do not change with respect to location, or at any location the density and thermal conductivity is same. So for a homogeneous material, the density is constant. The second assumption is there is a uniform heat generation. So the heat generation is uniform. Now, when we consider the heat flow through this elemental area, let's say the heat that is flowing in x direction is Qx. So Qx amount of heat is entering in x direction, and after this distance dx, let's say an amount of heat which is leaving the surface in x direction is Qx plus dx. Similarly, in y direction, let's say Qy amount of heat is entering, and after a distance of dy through this element in y direction, Qy plus dy heat is leaving. Similarly, in z direction, let's change the color. So in z direction, let us say Qz amount of heat is entering, and after a distance of dz from this surface, and heat is leaving of Qz plus dz. Right? So how can we write the equation for this heat transfer Qx, Qy and Qz? So we already know from Fourier's law of conduction that heat transfer is equal to minus Ka into dt by dx. So if you are writing the heat conduction equation in x direction, then Qx so if you are writing the heat conduction equation in x direction, we can write Qx will be minus the thermal conductivity in x direction we are taking as Kx. So minus Kx into area. Now what is the area through which area this heat transfer is occurring? So Qx is entering through this elemental area. So if we draw a magnified view of this area, so through this area the heat transfer is occurring, and this distance is dy and this is dz. So area will be dy into dz. So here Qx will be equal to minus Kx into dy dz into del T by del x. Right? So this is the Fourier's law of conduction. Similarly, if you want to write Qy, it will be minus Ky. So Ky is the thermal conductivity in y direction, and through which area the heat is entering in y direction. So through this area the heat is entering. And what is this area? So this distance is dz and this is dx. So dx into dz is the area through which the heat is entering in y direction. So if you are writing the heat conduction equation in y direction, then Qy will be minus Ky into area is dx into d multiplied by del T by del y. right? Similarly, we can write the equation for z direction also. So if you write heat transfer in z direction, it will be equal to minus kz, which is the thermal conductivity in z direction, into the area. So the z direction, the heat is entering through this front surface. So if you draw the surface here, so this is dx and this is dy. So area will be dx into dy. So if you are writing the equation of heat transfer in z direction, it will be qz equal to minus kz into the area dx into dy into del t by del z. Okay, so these are the equations for qx, qy and qz. Now see here, if qx amount of heat is entering from this end and there is some heat generation in this body also. So from this end, obviously not the same amount will leave. Some more amount will be added, some more amount of heat will be added, and that will leave from this surface. So we are denoting the heat that is leaving from this surface as qx plus dx. And from our knowledge of mathematics, we know we can write qx plus dx as qx plus del by del x into qx dx. Similarly, the qy plus dy will be qy plus del by del y into qy dA, right? Similarly, qz plus dz can be written as qz plus del by del z into qz dz, right? So we know the values of this qx, qx plus dx, qy, qy plus dy and qz, qz plus dz. Now what we have to do, we have to just balance the heat. So what will be the heat balance equation or energy balance equation? We can write the energy input plus the energy generated, because this energy is input to this element plus some amount of energy is generated, minus energy out. For example, these are the energy out, must be equal to energy stored. So this is the steady state equation. So energy input plus energy generated minus energy out equal to energy stored. Now what is this energy generated? Let's say we are denoting this energy generated as Q generation. So the unit of this Q generation will be watt. But if I want to represent this generated energy in terms of per unit volume, then we denote that with small qg. So this is the energy generated per unit volume. So its unit will be watt per meter cube. So we can write this equation that this Q generation, the capital Q generation, will be equal to small q generation into the volume of the object, right? So what is the volume of this element? It will be equal to dx into dy into dz, because it is a rectangular element. So the volume will be dx dy into dz. Now we can just put these values in this energy balance equation and we will get the generalized equation for this conduction in Cartesian coordinates. So now we will put the values of this energy input, energy output in this equation. So what do we get? So what is the energy input? So these three terms are the energy input. So let's put this. So energy input will become Qx plus Qy plus Qz minus, let's say write down this energy output first. So it will be minus Qx plus dx minus Qy plus dy minus qz plus dz plus the energy generation, that is the Q generation, equal to energy stored. Right? Now, if you closely see this value qx minus dx, and if you want to calculate the value of this, so how can we do this? So we have to subtract this term and this term. So what do we get? This qx and this qx will get cancelled, and you will be remaining with qx minus qx plus dx will be equal to just this term in negative, right? Because this qx and qx will get cancelled. So you will get minus del by del x into qx dx. Similar thing we can do for qy minus qy plus dy. So you will get minus of del y into qy dy. Similarly for qz minus qz plus dz, we will get minus del y del z qz into dz. So let's substitute that. So in place of qx minus qx plus dx, we will write minus del by del x into qx dx. So it will become minus del by del x into qx dx. Now in place of qy minus qy plus dy, we will write minus of del y into qy dy. So it will become minus del y qy into dy. Similarly for this term qz minus qz plus dz, we will write minus del y del z into qz dz, right? Now this Q generation we are writing in terms of per unit volume. So what will it become? So it will become plus Q generation. So it is in per unit volume, so we have to multiply with volume, dx dy into dz equal to energy stored. Right? So this is how we can simplify this equation. Now what is this energy stored? So we know from the knowledge of thermodynamics that energy stored will be equal to mc delta T by delta tau, where this tau is time. So this tau is time, right? So we are remaining with this equation. Now we have to simplify this. So now we will put the values of qx, qy and qz in this equation, and you will get the generalized equation for Cartesian coordinates. So for that, okay, we will rub this. So now we have reached to this equation, and now we will put the values of qx, qy and qz in this equation. So qx, qy and qz values are given by this. I have written this also. So let's put those equations in this. So what will become? So minus del by del x into qx. So qx is minus kx into dy dz into del t by del x. So we will put it here. So it will become minus kx into dy dz into del t by del x, and the dx is here, right? Similarly, we will put the value of qy from there. So it will be minus del by del y into minus ky del x dx into dz into del t by del y multiplied by dy. Similarly, this qz, so it will become minus del by del z, in bracket we put the values of qz, so it will be minus kz del x dx dy into del t by del z into dz, plus there will be the energy generation value plus Q generation into volume is dx into dy into dz is equal to this energy stored. So mc dt by d tau. Now we will divide this whole equation with dx dy dz, that is the volume of this element, right? So what do we get? So if we divide this term with dx dy dz, so see, this is dx dy into dz. So this dx dy dz will get cancelled from this term. In this term also there is dx dy dz. So this is also will get cancelled out. In this term also there is dx dy and dz. So this will also get cancelled out. And here also we have dx dy dz, right? And dx dy dz will sit here in the denominator. So it will be, what is dx dy into dz? It is the volume. So we can write down just volume here. So now this equation reduces to, so this will become minus and minus will become plus. So del by del x into kx into del t by del x, right? Similarly here also minus minus will become plus. So it will be del by del y into ky into del t by del y. Here also we can write plus del by del z into kz into del t by del z, right? And this value will just remain as Q generation or Qg equal to. Now see here, this is mass per unit volume. So what is mass per unit volume? It is density, right? So density is mass per unit volume. So we can write, in place of this m divided by volume, we can write rho, the density, into c into dt by d tau, right? So now we are remaining with this equation. Now let's make one more assumption, that this material is isotropic. So what is an isotropic material? For an isotropic material, the properties do not change with respect to direction, or in every direction the property remains same. So for example, if this is the element, then the thermal conductivity in x, y and z direction are same if that material is an isotropic material. So if this is kx, this is ky and this is kz, then for isotropic material, so let's write down the assumption here. Let the material is isotropic. So what does that mean? For an isotropic material, kx is equal to ky is equal to kz, and let's say it is equal to k, right? So we can replace this kx, ky and kz with k, and as it is common in these three terms, so we can take the k out of this equation, right? So we can write k, we can take common, so it will become del by del x into del t by del x. So it will be del square t by del x square plus, so k is we have taken out, so it will become del square t by del y square, and similarly this will become del square t by del z square, right? Then this is Qg equal to rho c del t by del tau. Okay. Now we can divide this whole equation with k. So what will become? This k will get cancelled out from here. So if you are dividing with k, this k will get cancelled out from here and it will sit on the denominator here, and here also divided by k. and this k will get cancelled out. So what we have done, we have just divided this total equation with k. So now this equation becomes like this. And if you remember, we have discussed the thermal diffusivity. So what is thermal diffusivity? It is the ratio of heat conducted divided by heat stored. And what is the equation of that thermal diffusivity? That is alpha, it is k by rho c. So see here, it is rho c by k. So it is inverse of thermal diffusivity, or we can write 1 by alpha in this place, right? So let's write that. So now the equation will become del square T by del x square plus del square T by del y square plus del square T by del z square, okay, plus Qg by k equal to, in place of rho c by k, what can we write down? We can write 1 by alpha. 1 by alpha into del t by del z, right? So this is the generalized equation for conduction in Cartesian coordinates. So this equation we have to remember. Okay, so this is the equation of generalized equation of conduction in Cartesian coordinates. Okay, so now we have arrived to this generalized equation of heat conduction in Cartesian coordinates. So can you recall what are the assumptions for this equation? Yes, the first assumption was the material is homogeneous. The next assumption that we made right now, it was isotropic material, the material is isotropic. And third assumption is there is a uniform heat generation. We can make some more assumptions, and those are called as the special cases. So there are three special cases. Let's take the case 1 first. So in case 1, we will consider that there is a steady flow heat transfer, or there is a steady state heat transfer. So the assumption is steady state. So as I have told you, in a steady state, there is no dependency of temperature with respect to time. So with respect to time, the temperature is not going to change, or the temperature is constant with respect to time. So in this equation, if you see this term, so this is del T by del tau. So it is showing the variation of temperature with respect to time. And as we have considered this heat transfer to be steady state heat transfer, this value will become 0. So the right hand side of the equation is going to become 0. So what we are remaining with, it will be del square T by del x square plus del square T by del y square plus del square T by del z square plus Qg by k equal to 0. And this equation is known as Poisson's equation. So this is known as Poisson's equation. Okay, so this is the case number 1. Now in case number 2, we will consider that there is no heat generation. So there is no heat generation. So in this equation, we will put 0 in place of this heat generation term. So what will it become? So it will be del square T by del x square plus del square T by del y square plus del square T by del z square. So this term will become 0. So we will get equal to 1 by alpha into del T by del tau. So this is case number 2, and this equation is known as diffusion equation. So sometimes in examination they can ask what is the name of this equation. So this equation is known as diffusion equation. Okay. So in case number 3, we will assume that there is a steady state heat transfer with no heat generation. So first thing is steady state and there is no heat generation. Right. So in this case, what is going to happen? As this is a steady state heat transfer, this right hand side will become 0 and moreover there is no heat generation. So this term also will become 0. So we will be just remaining with this term. So it will be by del x square plus del square t by del y square plus del square t by del z square equal to 0. And you may be knowing the name of this equation because we have studied this in mathematics. So this equation is known as Laplace equation. So this is the Laplace equation. So these are the 3 special cases of generalized equation of conduction. So that you have to remember. Okay, so now let's solve this problem to get the more clear picture about this. So he is given the temperature variation in a slab is given by T equal to 100 plus 200x minus 500x square, where x is in meters. So at x equal to 0, that is at the left face, and x equal to 0.3 at right face. Temperature he has given in degree Celsius and the thermal conductive value is given as 45 watt per meter Kelvin. Specific heat is given as 4 kilojoule per kg Kelvin and density of the material is given as 1600 kg per meter cube. So he is asking to calculate the temperature at both surfaces, the left end and the right end, and he is asking the heat transfer at the left face and its direction. He is asking the heat transfer at the right face and its direction. And then the fourth point, is there any heat generation in the slab? If so, then how much? And maximum temperature in the slab and its location, and he is asking to draw the temperature profile. So now let's approach this problem. So he has given the temperature variation in this slab as T equal to 100 plus 200x minus 500x square. So this is the temperature variation he has given, and it is a slab for which the x is equal to 0 at left face. So this is the left face where the x is equal to 0, and at right face x is equal to 0.3. It is in meters. So this is the right face. So what are the values that he has given? So thermal conductivity value K is given as 45 watt per meter Kelvin, right? And the value of specific heat, small c, is given as 4 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. Okay. So also he has given the density. How much is the density? So density of this material is given as 1600 kg per meter cube. So the first thing he is asking to calculate is the temperature at this left face and the temperature at the right face. So it is quite straightforward. We have the equation of temperature and the variation of temperature is with respect to x. So if you put the value of x, you will get the temperature for that location. For example, if you will put x equal to 0 in this equation, then you will get the temperature of this left face. Similarly, if you will put x equal to 0.3 in this equation, then you will get the temperature of this right face. Okay. So now let's calculate the first problem. So he is asking to calculate the temperature at left phase. So at x equal to 0, he is asking to calculate the temperature. So what you have to do, just in this equation, T equal to 100 plus 200, so it will be equal to 0. So this term will also become 0. So we are just remaining with what? Just the first term, because there is x, there is also x, so it is 0. So temperature is 100 degrees Celsius, because this equation he has given, the temperature is in degree Celsius, right? So temperature of left phase we have calculated, and it is equal to 100 degrees Celsius. So this temperature is 100 degrees Celsius. Similarly, the next thing you can calculate, he is asking us to calculate the temperature at x equal to 0.3 or at the right phase. Okay, so now what we have to do, just put x equal to 0.3 in this equation, the equation of this temperature. So what do we get? T equal to 100 plus 200 into 0.3 minus 500 into 0.3 square, right? And when you will solve this, you will get this temperature as 115. So if it is the temperature at x equal to 0.3, this was temperature at x equal to 0. So this you will get it as 115 degrees Celsius. So here the temperature of the right phase is slightly more than the temperature at the left phase, and it is 115 degrees Celsius, right? The next thing he is asking is the heat transfer at the left phase and its direction. So how can we calculate the heat transfer? So we have seen, we know the Fourier's law of heat conduction, and it tells Q is equal to minus Ka dt by dx. So what is the equation of heat transfer? Q equal to minus Ka dt by dx. As area is not given in this question, he has not mentioned the area, so we will calculate this heat transfer per unit area, and for that you can take area equal to 1. So for a unit area, so 1 meter square. So for a unit area we are calculating this heat transfer. Now this K value is given, so if we somehow can calculate this value of dt by dx for different location, then we can calculate the heat transfer for that location, right? So the equation of T is given. If you will differentiate this equation, then you will get this dt by dx value. So what will be dt by dx? So for dt by dx you have to differentiate this equation. So 100, it is a constant, so differentiation will become 0. 200x, so 200 will come out and the differentiation of x will be 1. So it will be 200 minus the differentiation of 500x square will be what? 500 is constant and differentiation of x square will be 2x, right? So it will become dt by dx equal to 200 minus 1000x, correct? Now if I want to calculate the heat transfer from the left phase, so if you want to calculate Q from the left phase, so at left phase what is the value of x? It is x equal to 0. So if I want to calculate the heat transfer from the left phase, then this will be equal to minus Ka into dt by dx at x equal to 0, right? Because dt by dx value is in terms of x. So if you want to calculate heat transfer from left phase, then you have to calculate the dt by dx value at x equal to 0. So if you calculate the dt by dx value as at x equal to 0, what it will become? this term will become 0. So dt by dx at x equal to 0 will be equal to just 200. So at x equal to 0, if you are calculating dt by dx, it will be equal to 200 only. Right? Now if you put this value in this equation of heat transfer, we will get the heat transfer from the left phase. So Q left will be, the thermal conductivity value is given as 45 and this minus is there. Area we have taken as 1 because we are calculating per unit area, multiplied by this dt by dx, which is 200. So when you solve this equation, you will get the heat transfer as minus 9000. So heat transfer from this left surface will be minus 9000 watt per meter square, because we have taken area as 1, because he has not given the area, so we are calculating per meter square. So the unit will be minus 9000 watt per meter square. Now what is the meaning of this minus? This is telling the heat transfer is not in this direction, it is in the opposite direction. So for the left phase, the heat transfer is in leftward direction only. So this is the direction of heat transfer from the left phase, and it is 9000 watt per meter square. If it comes as positive, then it is in the direction of x, but it is coming at negative, so the direction of the heat transfer will be opposite to that direction. So this is the direction of heat transfer, so he is asking the magnitude and direction also. So we can write the magnitude of heat transfer from left phase is 9000 watt per meter square and the direction is towards leftwards. Right, so we have calculated the heat transfer from left phase. Similarly, in next question he is asking to calculate the heat transfer from the right phase. So we have to do the similar things. So if you are calculating, so this is question number 3, I guess. Yes. So this was 2. So in third question he is asking to calculate the heat transfer from right phase. So at right phase, what is the value of x? It is x equal to 0.3. Correct? So now if you want to calculate the heat transfer, the formula will become minus Ka into dt by dx at x equal to 0.3. So now you have to calculate this dt by dx value at x equal to 0.3. So come here, this is the equation of dt by dx, and we have to put x equal to 0.3 in this equation, and we do that. When we will do that, we will get the value of dt by dx as minus 100. So it will become dt by dx at x equal to 0.3 will be 200 minus 1000 into 0.3, and you will get this value as minus 100. Right? So we will put the values here. So this K value, so this K is given as 45, so it will be minus 45 into area is 1, and this dt by dx value is minus 100. Now this minus minus will become plus, and this will be equal to 4500 watt per meter square again. Now see, for right phase, the heat transfer is coming as positive. That means it is in the x direction itself. So from right phase, what will be the heat transfer? It is 4500 watt per meter square. So this is the direction of heat transfer, which is rightwards. Okay. So next thing he is asking, is there any heat generation in the slab, and if it is, then how much? So how can we find out if there is any heat generation? Now we have to use the generalized equation that we have derived for heat transfer, heat conduction in Cartesian coordinates, because it is a plane slab, so it is a rectangular coordinate, though here the heat transfer is only in one direction, because see, the temperature is depending just on the x. So it is depending on just one direction. So it is a one dimensional heat transfer. Moreover, the temperature is independent of time. So we are not seeing any dependency of time in this particular equation. Right? So we can say that temperature is not dependent on time, as well as temperature is just depending in one direction. So it is a one dimensional heat transfer and it is a steady state heat transfer. So what are the conditions here? It is a one dimensional heat transfer and it is a steady state heat transfer. So these things he has not clearly mentioned in the problem, but you have to make your assumptions based on this equation, because there is only one parameter, that is x, on which the temperature is depending. So it is just a one dimensional heat transfer. Now we have the generalized equation of heat conduction in Cartesian coordinates. So what is that generalized equation? It is del square T by del x square plus del square T by del y square plus del square T by del z square plus qg by k equal to 1 by alpha into del T by del tau, where tau is the time. Now if you put these assumptions or these conditions in this equation, what do we get? So because it is a just one dimensional heat transfer, and that too just in x direction, so just this term will remain and this y term and z term will vanish, right, because it is a one dimensional heat transfer. Moreover, this is a steady state heat transfer, so the variation on time, this will also become 0. So temperature is not dependent on time. So we are remaining with del square T by del x square plus qg by k equal to 0. Now by using this equation, we can easily calculate the value of this heat generation. So now the generalized equation has been reduced to this equation, del square T by del x square plus qg by k equal to 0. So now we want to calculate the heat generation in this slab. So this k is known to us, this qg we have to calculate. So if somehow we can calculate this del square T by del x square value, then we will easily get this qg value, right? So if we differentiate T by dx once more, so we will get the del square T by del x square value. So let's differentiate it. So del square T by del x square, we are differentiating this equation. So differentiation of 200, as it is a constant, it will become 0. There is a 1000 will come out, and differentiation of x is 1. So del square T by del x square value we are getting as minus 1000. Okay, now put this value in this equation. So if you put this here, it will become minus 1000 and change the side of this qg by k. So it will become minus qg divided by k, and k value is 45 watt per meter Kelvin, it is given. So qg will become, this minus and minus will get cancelled, so qg will become 45,000. And what is the unit? As it is the small qg, so it is watt per meter cube. So it is heat generation per unit volume. So this is the answer. Okay, so next thing he is asking the maximum temperature in the slab and its location. So from our knowledge of mathematics, the maxima and minima, we know a curve is maximum or minimum where the slope is 0. So if this equation is given to us, t equal to 100 plus 200x minus 500x square, then it will be maximum or it will be minimum where the slope of this equation becomes 0. So what is the slope of this equation? It will be dt by dx. So if we differentiate once and equate it to 0, you will get the location at which the temperature is maximum, right? So let's do that. So dt by dx value we already know, it is 200 minus 1000x. So now it will become, if we equate 200 minus 1000x to 0, we will get the value of x where this temperature is maximum. So it will be 200 equal to 1000x, or we can write down is x max is equal to 200 divided by 1000. So what do we get? We get this value of x, or x max. So x max corresponds to the distance from left face at which the temperature is maximum, right? So x max you will get here as 0.2 meter. So from left face at x equal to 0.2, the temperature is going to be maximum. So let's say this is 0, this is 0.3. So somewhere here the x will be equal to 0.2, and at this location the temperature will be maximum. So we have to calculate the maximum temperature. So how can we calculate that? We have the equation of temperature in terms of x. So if we put the value of x as 0.2, then you will get the maximum temperature. So let's do that. So T max will be 100 plus 200 into 0.2 minus 500 into 0.2 square. And when you do that, you will get the answer as 120 degrees Celsius. So this maximum temperature is 120 degrees Celsius. So if we want to show this temperature in this diagram, say this is 100, this is 115, then obviously 120 is going to be slightly higher than this. So maybe at this point. So if this is x equal to 0.2, so maybe somewhere here the temperature is going to be 120 degrees Celsius, and it is the maximum temperature. So the last thing that he is asking is to draw the temperature profile. So we know the three temperatures, and by seeing this equation we can tell that this variation of temperature with x, it's some curve, it is of second order. So we can draw some curve and we can join the 3 points. So when we do that, we will get a curve like this. So here we can see this is the maximum temperature, and at this point, as you can see, the slope of this equation is 0. So if it is the slope, then this slope is equal to 0. So what is the meaning of slope? It is dt by dx. So dt by dx at x equal to 0.2, it is equal to 0. So we have calculated everything and we have drawn the temperature profile. Okay, so now we will discuss the steady state one-dimensional heat conduction without heat generation in a plane slab. So we will consider a plane slab. Let's say it is a plane slab. So this is the x direction, and let's say the thickness of this slab is L. So the thickness of this slab is L, and let's say the left face is maintained at a temperature T1, while the right face is maintained at a temperature T2. Okay, so what are the assumptions for this analysis? First assumption is steady state. Second assumption is there is a one-dimensional heat conduction, and third assumption is there is no heat generation. So first one is steady state heat transfer. Second one is one-dimensional heat conduction. And the third one is there is no heat generation. Okay. Now another assumption we can write down, that the material is homogeneous. So fourth assumption is the material is homogeneous. Okay, so write it down, the assumptions. So we have discussed in Cartesian coordinates what is the generalized equation in Cartesian coordinates of conduction. So let me remove this assumption part. So in Cartesian coordinates, we know the generalized equation is del square t by del x square plus del square t by del y square plus del square t by del z square, right, plus qg by k equal to 1 by alpha into delta t by delta tau. So this is the generalized equation in Cartesian coordinates. Now what are the assumptions here? The first one is steady state. So if there is a steady state heat transfer, this term is going to be 0, right? Second one is one dimensional heat transfer, and we are considering the heat transfer only in one direction, which is the x direction. So we are considering that this is the direction of heat transfer. So this term which is containing y and this term which is containing z, both will vanish, right? The next assumption is there is no heat generation. So this is the heat generation term, this will also vanish. So for heat conduction, steady state one dimensional heat conduction without heat generation in plane slab, you will remain with the governing equation as del square t by del x square equal to 0, right? So this is the governing equation for this plane slab. Now we can integrate this equation. So let's twice integrate this equation. So on first integration we will get del t by del x equal to, there would be some constant, let's say C1, and if we integrate this once more, then we will get t equal to C1 into x plus C2. So this is the basic integration, right? Now this C1 and C2 are some constant which are unknown to us, and how do we calculate the value of these constants? We use the boundary conditions. So what are the boundary conditions here? See carefully. See, this is the left face, and at this left face x is equal to 0, right? So at x is equal to 0, what is the temperature here? Temperature is T1. Similarly, at the right face, here x is equal to L, and when x is equal to L, the temperature is equal to T2. So what are the boundary conditions? Okay, so boundary conditions are so we have two boundary conditions because there are two constants. So first boundary condition is at x equal to 0, the temperature is equal to T1, and the second boundary condition is at x equal to L, the temperature is equal to T2, right? Now put these boundary conditions in this equation. So what do we get? So the equation is T equal to C1x plus C2. So first we put at x equal to 0, T equal to T1. So what do we get? So in place of T, we will write T1. So T1 is equal to, C1 will be there, and in place of x we have to put 0. So C1 into 0 plus C2. So this term will become 0, and we will get T1 equal to C2. So we have got first constant, that is C2 is equal to T1. Now put the second boundary condition here. So now we will take, in place of t, we will write T2. So T2 is equal to, so this is C1 into, in place of x, now we will write L. So C1 into L plus C2. So in place of C2, now we can write T1. Okay, so when we do that, a little bit of sign change and you will get the value of C1. So C1 will be equal to T2 minus T1 divided by L, right? And from this figure, we can tell if this is the direction of heat transfer, then obviously the temperature T1 will be greater than the temperature T2, because heat transfer always occurs in direction of decreasing temperature. So we can write T1 will be greater than T2, and in that case this T2 minus T1 value we are going to get as negative. So that part we will see later. So C1 is T2 minus T1 divided by L. Now if you put this value of C1 and C2 in this equation, you will get the temperature profile. So let us do that. So the temperature equation is T equal to C1x plus C2. So we can write T equal to C1. So in place of C1 we will write T2 minus T1 by L. So it will become T2 minus T1 by L multiplied by x. So x is there, plus C2, and C2 is nothing but T1. So this is the temperature profile in case of steady state heat transfer through plane slab when there is no heat generation. So this is the temperature profile for this case. Now we will analyze this temperature profile. So which kind of equation is that? It is a linear equation, right? How can we relate that? Let's say if we take x and y coordinate, okay, and let's say there is a straight line, then what is the equation of this straight line? It is y equal to mx plus c, right? We know from mathematics it is y equal to mx plus c, where c is the intercept. So this is c, and m is the slope of this equation, right? So m is slope, and in differential form, how can we write this slope? It will be equal to dy by dx, right? So this is when the coordinates is x and y, but here we have taken coordinates as x, and in this direction we have taken the temperature, so this is T. So what will be the slope here? In this case the slope will be dt by dx, right? Because in this case the slope was dy by dx, so in place of y we have taken t, so the slope will become dt by dx. And what is the value of dt by dx that we have calculated? Okay, we can this is the dt by dx value, and which is equal to C1, right? And C1 we have calculated as T2 minus T1 by L. And as I told you, this T2 is less than T1, so this value is going to be negative. So this slope is, it is a negative slope, and its value is T2 minus T1 by L, right? So this equation can be written in the form of y equal to mx plus c, and the intercept here is equal to T1. So c equal to T1 and m equal to T2 minus T1 by L, which is the slope of this equation. So this equation is a linear equation. So how can we draw this? See, if slope is negative, then we have to draw this kind of, see, this slope is positive because from positive x-axis it is in counterclockwise direction. So this kind of equation we say the slope is positive. If the equation was something like this, if it is in clockwise direction from the positive x-axis, then we say the slope is negative. And in this case we are getting the slope as negative. So this will be the temperature profile. It is a linear profile, and the intercept that we are getting here, C, which is equal to T1, that you can see here. So this is the intercept, which is equal to T1, and the slope of this equation is negative, and it is equal to T2 minus T1 by L. So we have derived the equation of temperature profile for plane slabs when there is no heat generation. So this is the equation of temperature or the temperature profile, T equal to T2 minus T1 by L into X plus T1. So we have seen this is a linear equation. So remember, this is a very important point, that the temperature variation in plane slabs when there is no heat generation, it is linear. If you remember, we solved last problem, so there was some heat generation. That's why the temperature profile in that question was not linear. So when we will start the heat conduction with heat generation, then we will discuss about that topic in detail. How is the variation of temperature in case of heat generation. So for now you have to remember, when there is a heat transfer through plane slab and there is no heat generation, the temperature profile is going to be linear. Now we will try to derive the equation for heat transfer through this plane slab. So we know the equation of heat transfer is, so from Fourier's law we know Q equal to minus Ka into dt by dx, right. So this dt by dx value we have previously calculated. So it was equal to constant C1, and then we calculated the constant C1 and we got it as T2 minus T1 by L. So we can just put down this value here, and what will we get? So Q will be equal to minus Ka into T2 minus T1 by L, right. Now if we take this minus inside, because this T2 is less than T1, then what do we get? So we will get Ka, T2 minus T1 will become T1 minus T2 when we take this minus inside. So it will be T1 minus T2 divided by L. So now this heat transfer will be positive in that direction because T1 is greater than T2. So this value is going to be positive. So this is the equation of heat transfer in case of plane slabs when there is no heat generation. So this is very important equation, and that you have to remember. We will use this equation very frequently. Okay, so this is the equation of heat transfer in case of plane slabs. Now there is some electrical analogy to this heat transfer. So we know that if there is an electric circuit which is maintained at potential difference of, let us say, V1 minus V2, and let us say a current I is flowing in, right. So there is some resistance, the electrical resistance R. So from Ohm's law we know that delta V equal to I into R, right. So now we will see the electrical analogy, how the electrical circuit is analogous to thermal circuit. So the topic is electrical analogy. Electrical analogy. See, similar to this electric circuit, there will be a thermal circuit in this case also. So in place of this potential difference or voltage difference, here is the temperature difference. So if I draw a thermal circuit for this slab, so this is maintained at two different temperatures. This temperature is T1 and this temperature is T2. And in place of current, here what is flowing? Here it is the heat current. So Q can be known as heat current or the rate of heat transfer. So we use the term rate of heat transfer more frequently, but it can be known as heat current also. So in place of I, here the heat current is flowing, and this in place of the potential difference we have temperature difference here. So there should be a thermal resistance also in place of this electrical resistance. So it is the electrical resistance, and similar to that there will be some thermal resistance, right? So what will be the Ohm's law for this thermal circuit? It will be equal to T1 minus T2 in place of this delta V equal to, in place of I, what do we going to write? We are going to write this Q, right, the heat current. So in place of I we will write this Q multiplied by, in place of R we will write the R thermal. So this TH is for thermal. So Ohm's law here will be T1 minus T2 equal to Q into RTH. Now if you want to calculate this RTH, it will be equal to T1 minus T2 divided by Q, right? And from this equation we know what will be the value of this T1 minus T2 by Q. If you do a side change, you will get T1 minus T2 divided by Q. Take the Q to the denominator, so this L will sit on top, so it will become L divided by K into A. So this is T1 minus T2 by Q, and which is equal to our thermal resistance. So we can write down this thermal resistance will be equal to nothing but this L by Ka. Okay, so this is the importance of electrical analogy, and we have calculated the value of thermal resistance as L by Ka. So in this thermal circuit, the value of R thermal will be L by Ka, where L is the thickness of the slab, K is the thermal conductivity, and A is the cross sectional area. Now what will be the unit of this thermal resistance? Let's try to find out. See, this is L by Ka. So unit of L is meter, it is length or thickness, divided by K. We know the unit of thermal conductivity is watt per meter Kelvin, right? And unit of this area is meter square. So this meter and this meter gets cancelled out, and this will also get cancelled out, and you will get the unit of thermal resistance as Kelvin per watt. Okay, so this unit is also important. So these three formulas are very important: the temperature variation or the temperature profile for plain slabs, and we have to remember that the temperature profile is linear in case of plain slabs with no heat generation. Second thing, the formula for heat transfer, that is Ka T1 minus T2 divided by L, and third formula, the thermal resistance formula, L by Ka, and the unit of thermal resistance also you have to remember, it is Kelvin per watt.